Okay, welcome to this video. So in this video, we're going to cover the pre-release of the APC exam December 2022. So what we will be doing, I'll be reading through this question. So I'll be reading through the question or reading through the pre-release and highlight some important information and to pick up potential triggers. And how do you pick up potential triggers? So that is basically going to be the focus of this video. So I'm going to jump straight into it. So you can see it reads Assessment of Professional Competence, which is APC December 2022, pre-released information. The company's name is Fodjan Pty Ltd. So here we have the inbox of the financial manager. So you are most likely the financial manager, and this is the inbox. You can see there are 7 emails. Basically, most of them coming from Elijah and some from Hajra Moodley. There are 7 documents, attachments. There's 2 attachments. The rest are all just emails. Okay, so let's read through it, and we will, as we go along, I will show you what information you most likely have to research, what information are potential triggers. Like when I say potential triggers, it's kind of like clearly that's a trigger, and then there are certain information that may be a trigger, not exactly crystal clear, but it is potentially. Okay, so let's have a look. So you can see it's 21 pages. So I'm going to go to page 2. Let me just make this a bit bigger. Okay, so there we go. So here we have document number 1. So it's email from Chief Financial Officer to Financial Manager. So the CFO is Elijah Mulabi. Sent, okay, so Friday 9 December, 8 o'clock in the morning, and it is to the finance manager who CC'd in, Hajra Moodley, and then the subject is welcome, and there's an attachment of the PowerPoint slides. Okay, so it says, hi there, I hope you have enjoyed your first week or so at Fodjan. You may have found that the restaurant franchise industry is a lot more dynamic and challenging than most people think. Okay, so what we pick up in that sentence, or that first 2 sentences, is that we're operating in a restaurant franchise industry. So that is basically because what you want when you get the pre-release, you want to identify what industry you are in, so that you can do some high-level research around that. And also, once you identify the company and the industry and a little bit more details around the company, then you can potentially find real-world companies that you can look to. Okay, so that is basically what you want to pick up also. So we know we are in the restaurant franchise industry. So we definitely want to research around that industry, not super in detail, but a fair amount of information we want to know about that industry. What are its current challenges? What are its current opportunities? What is the current trend within the industry? What are some of the numbers within the industry, and so forth? Okay, so we understand that. As previously discussed, Fodjan Pty Ltd, Fodjan, was established in 1992 and has evolved into one of the leading casual dining restaurant groups in South Africa. Okay, so we know we are in the restaurant franchise industry, and we are and if we can call it a segment, it is basically casual dining restaurant. Okay, so casual dining. So that is basically where our focus needs to be. So we want to understand the general when again a general understanding of the restaurant franchise industry. Then we want to also find out specific information, if possible, around the casual dining restaurant industry, okay, or that segment of the industry. So we would want to identify current challenges, current opportunities. We want to understand what are the current trends within the industry, what are the current threats, and all of those type of stuff. So just basically a high level understanding of what's going on within the industry. Typical tools to think about that it would be to think you would understand the industry. Think about the pestle analysis. Think about the SWOT analysis. Um, think about Porter's five forces. So those are type of tools or frameworks to use just to gain a high level understanding of the industry. And then obviously you want to get to understand the general you want to get to understand the general numbers that operate. So those are the type of things that you want to spend some time on. Not overly an hectic amount of time, but you want to spend some time gathering a good understanding around that industry. Okay, so they say the impact of the initial hard COVID-19 lockdowns from March 2020 to mid-August 2020 was devastating for the restaurant and fast food markets. Our franchisees suffered a great deal because of patrons were unable to have sit-down meals for almost 5 months. Our franchisees were also unable to serve alcohol, a lucrative source of business during these months. Okay, so you must take note in the restaurant industry. So a portion of the revenue comes from alcohol. That is something you want to keep in the back of your mind. So you want to understand what percentage of revenue is alcohol, what the percentage of revenue is actually food. Okay, but it's not like keep that in the back of your mind. So it was difficult. It was difficult trading through intermittent lockdowns, varying from level 5 to level 1, complicated further by it being hard to predict when these would be imposed. Fortunately, lockdown levels were eased later in 2021 and we were able to get back to almost normal trading conditions. However, the casual dining and fast food markets have dramatically changed post COVID 19 lockdowns. First, people have learned how to cook or to improve their cooking skills as a matter of necessity. Second, online orders for delivery skyrocketed, and this became the new normal. Third, ghost kitchens popped up all over the place. These ghost kitchens have no physical facilities for sit down meals and instead prepare food to fulfill online orders that are for delivery only. There have been so many innovations and developments in response to the changed landscape. Okay, so there you can see that's not necessarily triggers, right? However, that is giving an indication that you need to spend some time understanding what happened within the industry during that time. So remember, this would obviously have been relevant at the time of doing this exam. So you'd be able to find out information regarding what's happening within the casual dining and fast food markets during that COVID period and post the COVID period. So you'd want to understand. So they're giving you some idea as to what happened within the industry. So you can see there are three levels of that they're making mention. They're specifically mentioning people learned how to cook. They're specifically mentioning online order deliveries, and they're specifically mentioning ghost kitchens that have popped up. And then they also made mention that there's many other innovations and developments in response to this landscape. So that is something you'd want to understand what happened in the industry. Then you can see, okay, um, what is currently happening. The gave specific three. There might be some more as well. So you want to understand that, and then we want to understand our position, meaning John's position in relation to into those innovations and changes, and then see what steps we need to take in order to remain relevant. So those are the type of research you want to do. It might not be a specific question, but that information would help you to answer other relevant questions that may come your way. So, with the trading environment becoming increasingly complex, I often wonder if we should make more use of the data stored on our computer systems to better understand our businesses. I suppose the same goes for our franchisees. If you have thoughts on this, I would really appreciate your input. So that is somewhat a clear trigger. Not super strong, but it is a clear trigger because they are mentioning something and then they're asking you for your feedback. Okay, so they're mentioning this data and they're asking you for your thoughts. Um, they didn't say you must provide thoughts. They said if you have thoughts, then share it. Right? So that is, I won't say a hot trigger, but it's definitely something you want to think about. You definitely want to have a response to this. So what is it? Is using data to make better decisions, basically. So they're telling us with the trading environment becoming increasingly complex, I often wonder if we should make more use of the data stored on our computer systems to better understand our businesses. So that is something we definitely want to have a look at, right? So what would our thoughts be around this? And if you have thought, okay, then so that is basically definitely that is an that is basically a trigger that we would have to have a response for. So, what are our thoughts regarding using the data that we already have for better decision making? So, they said to understand our business. Why do we want to understand our business so we can make better decisions? Okay, so definitely that is something we want to have an answer to. I have attached some PowerPoint slides that provide information about FoutJan and its operations. We use these slides for orientation purposes for new staff members and non-executive directors. This presentation is also useful for planning purposes and our annual strategy sessions. Enjoy the read. Okay, so let's have a look what the slides is all about. Okay, so what's important to take note over there for Elijah is the CFO. Okay, so here's the attachment to the email. Annexure A, so FOJAN, background information, top-notch food in a family-friendly environment. Okay, so take note of that. Top-notch food in a family-friendly environment. So what we want to do is once we get an understanding of this business, we want to try to see whether we can find maybe a listed entity that is similar. So this because what we'll be able to do if you can find a listed entity that is similar, then you can do research on that listed entity, go through its financial statements, go through its annual report. Because in its annual report, there will be lots of risk management stuff, lots of strategy stuff, talking about its challenges, talking about opportunities, and all of those type of things. And you'll get an idea of what that listed company is currently doing, or what they have done in order to navigate COVID and all of those type of stuff, and that will allow you to get an understanding of what you need to do. Okay, so the contents. Okay, so it's our business and operating model, our revenue streams, our reach, our stakeholders, our shareholders, our directors, fodders, franchise, restaurant, summarize financial information, trends in the industry, and then opportunities. Okay, so there you can see they're giving some information, but you'd obviously want to do some further research. Okay, so our business and operating model. Fojan is a casual dining restaurant franchise group which has one brand, namely Fodders. Okay, so we know what we're in a casual dining industry, restaurant industry, and we're following the franchise model. Okay, so we want to understand how that works. So there's two parts to it. We want to understand the franchise restaurant model. So we want to look to understand how that works, and then also deeper understanding on the casual dining industry. So they say the vast majority of Fodders restaurants are franchised. We do not believe in competing against our franchisees who are vital partners in our ecosystem. Fojan has occasionally acquired underperforming franchise restaurants with the aim of turning these around and finding new franchisees to own and operate them. Fodder's menu focus on burgers, chicken, steak, and ribs with plant-based protein options. Okay, so take note what they serve. We do not have any pastas, pizza, or flame grilled chicken on our menus. Too many options spoil the broth. So we want to have a look who is similar to that, who sell burger, chicken, and steak and ribs, who don't sell pizza and who don't sell flame grilled chicken, who don't sell pasta and pizza. So I wouldn't know, but like what would come to my mind, casual dining would like a spur, basically. That would come to my mind. We have to further research, and then spur does seem to be casual dining. It is family orientated, same like them, and spur mainly sells burger, steak, ribs, and they don't do pizza, they don't do pasta, and they also follow a franchise model. Okay, so that would come to my mind. Well, then, if you use Spur, then you can try to figure out who would be Spurs, how can I say, competitors, and then we can see if we're close to Spur. Then we can use Spur as a guide to gain some information. I'm not saying it is Spur. I'm just saying that would come to my mind. Okay, so franchisees offer menu items and charge prices that are centrally set by Faujan. Faujan supports its franchisees in setting up new restaurants, feasibility studies and site selection, standardized decor selection, project management, training of staff. Okay. Missed something. Okay, so training of staff in the next slide. All Fodder's franchisees are required to install and operate a standardized point-of-sale software system procured from a global leading IT group that enables registering of orders, sending these directly to the kitchen, checking on the status of orders without having to walk to the kitchen, modification of orders, remove or swap ingredients and add extra items, processing of payments, and then data analytics and reporting. Waiters can use tablets to place orders and check on the status of orders via the point of sale system. Okay, so that is just some ideas. Okay, Fodder's restaurants do not allow reservations. Okay, so that's something to note. Fodder, so that is something to note, and perhaps with the COVID-19, maybe using reservations could help. I mean, it's just something to think about, but it's just some background. Fajan offers procurement services for a fee to franchisees. Fajan negotiates prices and terms with key restaurant suppliers. So it's meat, vegetables, bakery goods, dairy products, catering equipment to enable franchisees to purchase high quality products at competitive prices. Franchisees can order via Fojan's portal and suppliers deliver directly to restaurants. Franchisees pay suppliers directly. Fojan has its own range of sauce and seasoning, the manufacturing of which is outsourced to third-party manufacturers. Fojan also procures packaging supplies for Fodder's restaurants to ensure consistency at each restaurant. Franchisees are required to purchase the sauces, seasoning, and packaging from Fojan. Sauce and seasoning products are available for purchase at Fodder's restaurants and selected grocery retailers by customer paid. Okay, next slide. Fodder's customers can, in addition to sit-down meals, place order for delivery or for collection. The latter is referred to as click and collect. Faujan has relationships with both Mr. D and Uber Eats with regard to delivery options. Individual Fodders restaurants need to load their details on the Mr. D and or Uber Eats platforms and pay a negotiated commission percentage of the food order value to Mr. D and Uber. The delivery platforms collect payments directly from their customers and pay over the amounts less commission to Fodders franchisees. Faujan develops meaningful relationships with Fodders franchisees and visit them at least once a month to provide operational support and share skills and know-how. Franchise agreements between Faujan and franchisees are 5 years in duration, renewable or terminable at the option of either party at the end of the 5-year period. Okay, so now we go number 2, our revenue streams. Faujan charges an upfront 100,000 Rand joining fee to new franchisees. No further joining fees are applicable if a franchise agreement is extended for a further 5 years and any subsequent periods. Faujan charges franchisees a monthly franchise fee of 5% of the franchisee revenue. This fee was temporarily dropped to 4% during the harshest COVID-19 lockdown. Faujan also charges franchisees a monthly marketing fee of 3% of franchisee revenue, payable monthly in arrears. In terms of the franchise agreement, Faujan is the custodian of these funds and is contractually obliged to spend these funds on advertising and marketing for the benefit of all franchisees to promote the Fodders brand. Marketing activities include TV and digital advertising. Okay. So they're just basically a custodian of that. Money is not really theirs. Okay. Faujan charges franchisees a 2% procurement fee based on the value of goods and services that franchisees spend ordering via Faujan's procurement portal. Okay. Okay, so our reach, number 3. There are currently 96 Fodders franchisee restaurants open and trading throughout South Africa. Okay, so that is also when let's say you analyze Spur. Okay, so when we analyze Spur, you can have a look where the Spur has a similar footprint and all of those type of stuff. See where they're currently situated, and so that is if you can that's why if you can identify a listed company, then it'll be then that will help you to identify and learn about this company we're dealing with. Faujan recently purchased 100% of the equity of Big Ranch Pty Ltd, which is a franchisee with 5 Fodders restaurants. These restaurants ran into financial difficulty during COVID-19 lockdowns. Instead of letting these restaurants close, Faujan purchased Big Ranch because of the strategic locations of the restaurants. Faujan intends to turn around the profitability of these 5 restaurants and at a later stage to sell them to new franchisees. Fodders restaurants are typically located in smaller suburban shopping centers in major cities and towns. Okay, so take note of that, where they are located. Fodders restaurants are also located in standalone properties in suitable suburbs. Faujan discourages franchisees from operating restaurants in larger shopping malls because of the high rental costs. Fodders restaurants are targeted to serve middle to upper income families and patrons. Okay, our stakeholders, so they are franchisees, Fodders customers, shareholders, banks and other funding institutions, communities, suppliers, employees, government and regulators. Okay, our shareholders. Okay, so we want to take note of shareholders. So they're the Hambry Family Trust, 35%, New Africa Finance Corporation, 30%, RAC Empowerment Fund, 20%, Faujan Employee Share Trust, 15%. Philip Hambry started Faujan in 1992 and set up the Hambry Family Trust to own 100% of the shares in issue of the company. The trust shareholding reduced over time as new shareholders were introduced. Philip retired in 2017 but remains a non-executive director of Faujan. Okay, so take note of that. Okay, so New Africa Finance Corporation is a lending institution that specializes in financing franchisees, particularly those in the casual dining, restaurant, and fast food industries. NAFC has developed a proprietary database covering these industries and tracks the successes and failures of particular restaurants and fast food franchises and locations. NAFC is Faujan's preferred finance partner in lending to the franchisees. The RAC Empowerment Fund is a woman led triple BE investment group funded by a major South African financial services group. Okay, so just take note of that. Our directors, so we have Katleho Makuna, who's a non-executive director and chairperson. Philip Hambry, non-executive director. Heenan Bosch, non-executive director. Tanisha Noche, independent non-executive director. Eli Hambry, non-executive director. Hajira Moodley, chief executive officer. Elijah Mulabi, chief financial officer. Okay, so when I have a look at who are all the directors, and maybe from a king perspective, have a look if they're somewhat in line, if there's any different recommendations in terms of the Companies Act, if there's any specific specifications, so those type of stuff, just those basics, get to see whether it's appropriate or not. Okay. Katleho Makuna is an executive director of the RAC Empowerment Fund. Okay, so the RAC Empowerment Fund is she's the an executive director of the RAC Empowerment Fund, but she's the chairperson of this. She's the director and the chairperson of the FOJAN. Heenan Bosch is the CEO of the New Africa Finance Corporation. Tanisha Noche is a professor at the leading South African university and head of the School of Economics. Ellie Hambry is Philip's daughter, and the board of directors of Fojan is of the opinion that full compliance with the principles of King 4 is not always in the best interest of Fojan. Okay, so that's important to take note, because there could be some kind of question regarding this. What is your opinion? Is this accurate or not? For example, the board believes that persons with an intimate knowledge of the casual dining industry are far more valuable as non-executive directors than persons who are appointed purely because they are independent. Okay, so just take note. We don't have the level of independence is not there. Okay, so it's largely non-independent directors. Okay, so take note of that. Okay, Fodder's franchise restaurants. So open at the start of the financial year, new restaurant openings, restaurant closures, and the numbers at the end of the period. So 2020, 2021, 2022. So you can see what happened in 2020, 10 closed, 2021, 8 closed, and in 2022, 10 reopened or opened. So, unfortunately, numerous franchisees were not able to trade profitably during COVID-19 lockdowns and had to close their businesses. Faujan was very pleased that 10 new franchise restaurants opened in FY 2022. There is currently a strong pipeline of applications for new franchise restaurants, and Faujan expects a further 8 Fodder's restaurants to open in FY 2023. Okay, summarize financial information. So then we have franchisees, so extract all the financial statements, audited, and then draft. So franchise fees, marketing fund contributions. So remember, this marketing fund contributions was money received as a custodian, meaning it's not really our money. We receive this money and we need to actually use it on marketing. Okay, so we just need to look in terms of IFRS 15 whether this is appropriate. It was audited, so it may be appropriate, but just to confirm, you want to have a look whether when we receive money as a custodian, as part of a contract, right? So remember, we have a contract with a customer. So in terms of this franchise contract, there are certain fees that get charged. So marketing is one of those fees, but it's not really to our benefit. It must be spent. We need to spend the full amount. So we just need to have a look at that. Okay. Sales of sauce and seasoning, procurement fees, and then joining fees. Okay, so just take note of that. Fogen has an October year end. Okay, so we know we run from 1 November to 31 October. Okay, summarize financial information. So then we have total revenue, we have cost of sales, we have administration expenses, we have marketing expenses, we have impairment, and then we have operating profit before interest. Depreciation of property, plant, and equipment was 4 million, and then and depreciation of right of use assets was 8 million. Have been taken into account in determining operating profit. Okay, so let's have a look. So then we have operating profit before interest, have interest income, finance cost on lease liabilities, current taxation, deferred taxation, and then we have profit for the year. So you can see profit in FY 2021 was very low. Profit in FY 2022 almost basically doubled. Okay. Um, uh, so let's see. Yeah. Okay. So then we have the non-current assets. We have PPE, right of use assets, loan receivable, investment in Big Ranch, PTY Ltd, and then deferred taxation. Okay. Let's say refer to notes on slide 19 for further details for the loan receivable and then the investment in Big Ranch. Okay, so we'll look at that. Okay, so you can see right of use assets in FY 2022 jumped significantly. And then there was just an investment in Big Ranch in FY 2022. Okay, so that's the two big ones basically. Okay, notes to the non-current assets. Loans receivable represent advances by FODJAN to franchisees. These loans are generally short-term in nature, lasting only until franchisees raise finance to open new restaurants. However, due to the COVID-19 lockdowns, many franchisees have been struggling to raise finance and FODJAN loans terms were extended. Okay, so from a IFRS 9 point of view, we'll have to have a look at that. Okay, FODJAN acquired 100% of the equity of Big Ranch Pty Ltd with effect from 1 July 2022. FODJAN has not yet processed any pro forma journal entries with regard to Big Ranch for the purposes of preparing the group's consolidated AFS. The cash amount paid in the acquisition is reflected as an investment in FODJAN's draft AFS. Okay, so that will be a potential question that you need to consolidate that Big Ranch Ltd. Okay. Then we have summarized financial information, current assets, we have inventories, trade and other receivables, loan receivable, restricted cash, and then cash and cash equivalents. Restricted cash represents surplus cash in the marketing funds. Okay. FODJAN may only spend this cash on advertising and marketing activities. Okay. So that it's important to take note. Okay, then we have extract of the financial statements, ordinary share capital, retained earnings, non-current liabilities, non-current liabilities, contract liabilities, and leased liabilities. Let's just have a look at this one over here. Let me have a look, because here you can see, let me just try to think. Was here retained earnings 53, then in FY 2022 it's still 53, but we made a profit of 20 million or something like that. So it must have been a big dividend that was declared. Non-current liabilities, contract liabilities, lease liabilities. Okay, so we know there's a big jump in right of use assets. So same thing over here, big jump in lease liabilities. Training fees deferred over period of franchise agreements. Okay. Okay, then we have current liabilities. So we have taxation payable, we have trade and other payables, we have contract liabilities, and then lease liabilities. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, now we come to trends in industry. Increase in consumption of chicken in the restaurant and fast food industries. So we're gonna have a look at that. Why is that the case? Get an understanding as to why that is the reason. Traditional meal times are blurring. Customers are no longer strictly adhering to meal times, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they tend to eat whenever it suits them during the day. So it is something you want to kind of get an understanding of. What does that mean? Okay, so what does that mean for our business? What should we do? Should be some stuff that we change? Is this, yeah? So basically, we just want to get an understanding regarding that. Then social media become all powerful as customers share their good and bad experiences at the restaurants. Many customers are seeking plant-based meals as they seek to minimize environmental impact and eat healthier meals. Load shedding is adversely impacting on sit-down meals as customers prefer to order in when there are power outages. Food inflation is increasing as the price of cooking oil, grain products, and petrol escalate due to the Russia-Ukraine war and global inflationary pressures. Increasing competition from ghost kitchens, online orders and collection, only fast food operations. So remember they spoke about ghost kitchens. So that is something we need to have a look at. So that's what I'm talking about. Try to understand what are the trends in the industry. So they gave us here common trends. So these are obviously the first ones we want to look at and then understand what does this mean for our business? How does this impact our business? And how can we use this to grow our business? Okay. And then also to have a look at other things happening within the industry. Okay, opportunities. So yeah, they're giving us opportunities. So let's say Fajan is exploring its own ghost kitchen brands in the following categories. So they're telling you they are exploring, right? So this means you will have, this is kind of like a trigger that you will have to research ghost kitchens and understand ghost kitchens, and then have a look at these three options. Which ones would be the most beneficial? Okay. Fojan is working with selected franchisees to introduce drive-through facilities at their restaurants, given the increased popularity of click and collect. So once again, we want to understand drive-through and how does it work, what would be the cost involved, and all of those type of stuff. Okay. Forest is considering introducing a loyalty program whereby customers are issued with a loyalty card and earn loyalty points based on their purchases. It is proposed that the loyalty points could be redeemed as discounts against future purchases. These would be no cashback options. Okay, so this opportunities is basically a trigger slide. Okay, so there are three things that we need to work through. Exploring the ghost kitchens. So that is basically falls into two parts, right? What jumps out over here is strategy and risk management, as well as financial management, capital budgeting. Okay, then the friend introducing drive through, once again, that would also be strategy, risk management, and then and most likely a financial management type of question, right? Capital budgeting. Then this one of considering a loyalty program, what jumps out over there would be accounting. Okay, IFRS 15 accounting treatment of loyalty of a loyalty program. So this is definitely a trigger slide. Okay. Okay, so that is all the slides. So now we come to some further information. So in that first email, they were basically giving you the background of the entity. So in other questions, there'll be like 3 to 5 pages of background information, right? Generally, the background information, there are not that many triggers in the background information. You just give you an overview of what is happening in the company, what industry they operate, and all of those type of stuff. And that basically filters um, throughout the scenario, and you will use that here and there throughout answering your question. That's why that is very important. Okay, so just take note of that. But within those slides, there were certain triggers. So, for example, at consolidation, the opportunity slides, and then the trends is not a trigger that there will be a question on it, but the trends is you need to research the trends in order to understand the industry, so that when you answer questions, you answer in light of what's happening within the industry currently. Okay. So the background information, you would hardly have many triggers. Just to give you a background of the environment that the entity is operating and what's happening internally for that entity. There may be triggers here and there, but generally the rest would have triggers. Okay, so but like I said, that opportunity slide, it was basically all three of those are triggers that you need to research those options. um, and then that consolidation one, then they told us that they never consolidated the the big ranch, so that will most likely be a question as well. Okay, so let's go to document number 2. So hi again, hope you're settling in well. So this is from Elijah again. The subject is big ranch. Just a heads up, you have noticed on slide 19 of the PowerPoint presentation I emailed you that Faujon has not yet prepared any pro forma journal entries regarding our acquisition of 100% of the equity of Big Ranch for the purposes of preparing the group's FY22 consolidated Fs. I will need your help with this. Clear trigger. A clear trigger. You will have to I'll send you more information next week. So you must know what you'd have to do with what you'd have to do in consolidating the big ranch, right? So it's going to be a subsidiary. So you're going to have to bring on 100% of the assets, liabilities, income, and expense on a line by line basis. Okay. We don't have any more information. We're going to get it next week. So using that, so you just need to know what you'll have to do in order to consolidate it. That's a clear trigger. You're gonna get it. So make sure you know how to do consolidations. Okay. So just so you understand how we know it's a clear trigger, they're telling you, I'm going to need your help with it. Okay. You are said you're going to need your help, and your information will come next week. So you know you're going to do it. Okay. Document number 3, email from the Chief Financial Officer, customer loyalty program. There that comes up. So take note, we kind of picked it up in the opportunities. So they say, as mentioned to you earlier, our industry was hit hard by the pandemic. We will need to think outside of the box on how we can boost our revenue. You would have noticed from the PowerPoint presentation that we are considering introducing a customer loyalty program. Some of our competitors have implemented customer loyalty programs quite successfully. In particular, one competitor uses family cards to customers. Now, family cards in my mind is Spur, okay, which entitle these customers to benefit as such discount vouchers once customers have spent a certain amount of money at any of the restaurants, and access to exclusive promotions and automatic entry into competitions. Although such a program obviously comes at a cost, it holds many potential benefits for Faujan and our franchisees. Such programs have proven to be effective in increasing customer loyalty in the restaurant industry. The benefits outweigh the cost. The more often customer visits our franchisees' restaurants, the more revenue our franchisees will earn. And the more revenue our franchisees earn, the more franchise fees we will collect. It's a win-win situation. The board is comfortable to consider the business merit of such a program, but will draw on your technical expertise to give advice on the accounting and tax implications. So there you can understand They're basically telling you there's no need to research whether they're basically telling you don't bother researching whether a customer loyalty program is worth it or not, because the board will do that. Okay, so they say don't waste your time on. They basically telling you don't waste your time on that. So, but what they want you to do is you have to do the research regarding accounting and tax implications. So the accounting is going to be the accounting will be IFRS 15, and then we'll have to deal with the tax implications regarding that. Remember, the income tax act will just apply. Um, so obviously, because of customer loyalties, you may be receiving monies upfront. So those are the information that we have to have a look with. Basically, the timing of tax. So we will chat once I have more details. Okay, so now you know you need to go and research IFRS 15, how to deal with a customer loyalty program, and the tax implications given. Okay. While we are talking about revenue, I must point out that there are no uncertainties on how to account for our existing revenue streams. When the new IFRS 15 became effective in 2018, we consulted an IFRS expert to assist us with our revenue recognition. Our auditors, Green and Co., expressed their complete satisfaction with how we account for revenue, and there have been no significant changes since. Okay, so I think that got to do with the marketing and with that marketing contributions. So they are saying the marketing contribution is correctly recognized as revenue. I'll still just do a quick check on it. Okay, so far we know the consolidations, clear trigger. We know in terms of the customer loyalty program. Okay, so now we have an email from the chief executive officer to the finance manager. Okay, so this got to do with the Big Ranch Pty Ltd. Okay, so they say, hi there. I believe Elijah have provided you with some background regarding Fulgent's acquisition of Big Ranch and the plans to turn around these restaurants and then later sell them to new franchisees. Our operational team is already working hard at improving profitability at Big Ranch. Refer attached for extracts from the management accounts of Big Ranch with some explanatory notes. I've started discussions with the various potential franchisees to take over all the Big Ranch restaurants. It makes sense to sell all the restaurants together rather than individually, since that would mean less work. My discussion with potential franchisees have revolved around the following negotiating points. Fulgent paid a total of 14.5 million for Big Ranch, so we would want to recover at least this amount from selling the business of Big Ranch to a new franchisee buyer. A new Fodder's restaurant costs approximately 3.5 million in capital expenditure. Okay, so it's kitchen equipment, table and chairs, IT equipment, crockery and cutlery prior to opening. Hence, 14.5 million for 5 established restaurants would be a bargain for a buyer. Big Ranch should enter into a new franchise agreement with Fojan or renew the existing agreement for a further 5 years, but no joining fees would be payable. Okay, so there's two options: a new franchise agreement, then you have to pay a joining fee, or you renew the existing one, but there's no joining fee. Big Ranch would, from 2023 onwards, pay the normal 5% franchise fee and a marketing fee of 3% on its restaurant's turnover, as do all other franchisees. Okay, so they're just giving that. I'm going to ask you to assist with our discussions with potential franchisees buyers and to analyze the big ranch numbers ahead of these discussions. So, clear trigger, you're going to be involved in this whole exercise. So, remember, this is basically you are selling. So, it's like a merger and acquisitions type of question. Um, just that you are selling and you're not actually buying. Um, so you can think about valuations, you can think about how to structure deals and those type of stuff. Okay, so that is clear triggers regarding this question. Okay, so that was a CFO. So here we're giving some numbers. So FY 2021 and then FY 2022 financial year ended 31 October. So we have revenue, we have food and beverage costs, we have employee costs, other operating costs, franchise fees, marketing and fund contributions, procurement fees, joining fees, owners' drawings, in operating profit, depreciation on equipment, depreciation on right of use assets, then loss or profit before interest and taxation, interest expense, New Africa Finance Corporation, interest expense, lease liabilities, and then profit before taxation. Okay, notes to extract of the management accounts. Revenue represents the total sales of meals, products, and beverages at the five Fodder's restaurants in Big Ranch. Franchise fees were reduced by 4% to 4% of revenue during FY 2021, FY 2022 to provide relief because of the impact of COVID 19 restrictions and Big Ranch's losses. Similarly, marketing fund contributions were reduced from 3% to 2.5% because of Ranch's financial distress. The franchise fees and marketing fund contributions were left unchanged in FY 2021 and FY 2022. Fees payable to Fojet for using its procurement services to source products. I think that is like 2%, if I remember correctly. Joining fees represent the amortized initial joining fees over the period of the initial franchise agreements. The previous shareholder of Big Ranch paid himself a monthly amount classified as drawings over and above his monthly market related salary. Big Ranch obtained a loan from New Africa Finance Corporation in FY 2018 to fund the opening of new restaurants. The balance owing to New Africa Corporation at 31 October was 8.4 million. Big Ranch paid 3 million in lease payments to lessors in FY 2022, of which 0.263 million was allocated to interest expense and the balance to reducing the lease liability. Okay, so just take note of that. Okay. So now we know there's going to be most likely a valuation type question to see whether 14.5 million at the minimum is actually worth it for the business for someone. So just take note of that. Okay. What you want to have a look at is analyzing margins. So if I just go back over here, we'd want to where's this now? You want to understand what is the current margins in a company of this nature, um, in a restaurant business and all of those type of stuff. Okay, so um, to analyze margins, profiting, and all of those type of things, we want to understand um, what are the current margins in the industry. Is it growing? Is it reducing? We know there's inflationary pressures and all of those type of stuff. So um, that is basically what you want to understand when working through a question of this nature. So, email from Chief Financial Officer to Financial Manager. Yesterday, so this is again matters arising from meeting with external auditors. Yesterday afternoon, I had a meeting with Basil Bean, the audit engagement partner, and his team. Basil Bean is from Greener and Co., our duly appointed firm of registered auditors. The purpose of the meeting was for the audit team to clarify its understanding of our systems of internal control as part of its planning for the upcoming audit of Fogen's annual financial statements for FY 2022. Numerous questions were asked about our system of internal control for revenue. I am not sure whether these questions are due to the sizable increase in revenue from the prior financial year. But this got me thinking about whether we have adequate controls in operation to ensure that these revenue streams are correctly invoiced to our franchisees. Accordingly, I would like you to set some time aside in the next few days to review the system of internal control for our revenue transactions. Okay, so that is a clear trigger that you need to understand what is, we need to see whether they're giving us information how the system works, but otherwise you'd have to try to, and given the current information, if they don't give us detailed information over here, then you'll have to use a current you just have to use what the information they gave us above, as well as understanding a competitor perhaps of how it would work in the real world, and then run your mind through it, and then using your auditing knowledge, and just think of what controls would you put in place as management. So remember, even if you're going to use auditing as a base for working through a system, we don't just want controls for audit purposes, we want controls for a business purposes, right? So it's beyond audit controls. To think about what controls would you put in place, what mechanisms would you put in place as a form of internal control system. Okay, so just take note, definitely a clear trigger that you would have to do some research around. Okay, so they say the audit team also expressed the desire to make greater use of automated tools and techniques when conducting the audit to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of its work. Not being particularly tech savvy, I would appreciate your assistance in helping them with this if necessary once the audit is underway. Okay, so you'll have to obviously research auditing, cats, and all of those type of stuff. Okay. After the planning meeting, during an informal conversation with Basil over a cup of coffee, he mentioned that several of his clients are franchisees of Faujin. They have been complaining that they have not seen much benefit from the campaigns run by our marketing team, despite their sizable financial contributions to the marketing fund over many years. I would therefore also like you to apply your audit skills to the marketing expenditure incurred during the past 12 months. If there's anything that is questionable, I would like to know about it sooner rather than later. While you are busy with this, you might as well consider whether there are any tax issues related to the marketing fund. For a long time now, I've left the marketing team to do their own thing from a financial perspective. Um, but having heard Basil's comments, I definitely do not want to be accused by the board of neglecting my fiduciary duties. Okay, so there's a lot of aspects over here now. There is he's talking about his fiduciary duties. So the whole thing of Companies Act stuff, and then King stuff, and all of those type of things. Then we're talking about any controls in place regarding what the marketing team has done with the money, and then also um, any tax implications. Okay, so we'll have to have a look. So there's a few things over here. So we know there's a whole aspect. Then just as, by the way, coffee. Another thing is that when so you see there was an informal conversation with the audit partner, but the audit partner shouldn't actually have discussed that, because it's actually confidential information, basically. Anyway, that is just something to note as well. So just take note. There's quite a few things happening in this thing. In this one email, there's the internal controls of the revenue systems and the income streams. There's the cats regarding the automated controls. Then there's also now this marketing aspect, the tax implications, whether they have been using the money correctly, and then also his fiduciary duties. Okay, so there's quite a few happening over there. So any of those can come in, or even more than one of those can come in. Okay. Okay, we're on the second last document. So this is from Hajra Moodley, the new franchise offering. Hi there. Foden has stuck to its game plan since inception of being a franchisor and has exclusively focused on the Fodders brand offering, a family-friendly casual dining restaurant group. However, having survived the COVID-19 pandemic and related lockdowns, we have started to think about expanding our offering to diversify and grow the group. There is limited scope to significantly increase the number of Fathers restaurants, so we need to expand in different ways. Okay, so there you have that now. Um, so one way to expand is to have more franchises or franchisees, but they're telling there's limited scope for that, so they need to look to other avenues. So they're saying, I believe Fulgent need to keep its strategy of being a franchisor operating in the sit down and takeaway food and beverage industry. We have in the past debated introducing a new franchise offering such as flame grilled chicken, pizzas, and pastas. However, we believe these may be overtraded in South Africa. Okay, so you just want to have a quick look whether that is useful or not. The board of directors is currently debating options regarding the expansion of our franchise offering, and we have narrowed it down to two potential options. Okay, so you don't have to bother about this one over here. We will focus on one or two. Okay, so they're telling you that they are focusing on those two. Okay, purchasing an existing South African franchise operation, but not with a focus on flame grilled chicken, pizza, or pastas, entering into a master franchise agreement with a leading global brand to introduce the offering into South Africa. Foden assuming the franchisor of the South African operations. Okay, so just take note of that. So you'll have to analyze that from a strategy point of view. Okay, a strategy and a risk management point of view. So that is definitely what you'll have to have a look at. And obviously, with that, you'll have to understand the numbers regarding it, because part of strategy and risk management is also to understand whether it is financially viable. Okay, it would be wonderful if you could start thinking about the above two options. We will certainly involve you in investigating one of these options and doing some financial modeling work for us. So there you can see you're going to have to do some financial modeling. You're going to have to do some forecasting and valuations. Okay, many thanks in advance for your inputs. So clear trigger. You need to know it's like capital budgeting, basically capital budgeting. Um, or evaluation, and you need to understand. So you'll have to work through the understand the costs involved, understand the revenues involved, understand the margins involved, and all of those type of stuff. So that is definitely something you're going to spend quite a bit of time to understand. Okay, so document 7, email from Chief Financial Officer. Hi there, please see email below from our chairman. I am just looping you in as I may need some help in drafting considering the terms of the agreement. Okay, so there you can see clear. It's going to be a trigger. So the email over here from Katleho Makuna. Hi, Elijah. I've got a proposal that I think presents an excellent opportunity to get ahead in the market, especially as the economy is trying to recover from the lockdowns. I'm sure you are familiar with one of our sauce and seasoning suppliers by the name of Flavorful. I have a monthly golf game with the CEO of Flavorful, Michelle Watson. Yesterday, I had a conversation with Michelle that ended up with a proposal that I think has the potential to be really beneficial to Fojan. The proposal is that Fojan enters into a 2-year exclusivity agreement with Flavorful, whereby Fojan procures sauces and seasoning only from Flavorful, but at significantly discounted prices. I really think this would be a great deal for Fojan. Of course, when I wear my rack hat, it is important for me to point out that a supplier contract would likely result in better profits for Fogen and ultimately dividend payments for the rack so that it can repay its own funders as soon as possible. After all, we shouldn't forget that first and foremost, I'm here by virtue of being a nominee director representing the RAC's interests. I'll be in touch soon with more details. So once again, there's an independence issue, there's an ethical issue. So you'll have to have a look at that. So there's a definitely an independence issue, definitely an ethical issue. Also, the chairperson can't solely enter into an agreement. The board would have to approve it as well, which is a significant contract. So that is definitely going to be a trigger that you have to think about, and what are its implications. Okay, so there we go. So in the next video, I'll read through the information on the day, and then as we go through the tasks, we will see how the information from the pre-release and the information of on the day fits into the task. What I can tell you from past experience is that the information on the day is basically going to answer everything in the tasks, and the pre-release is just going to help you with background information to help you to answer the tasks using the information on the day. So that is the important aspect of that. But until the next video, I'll see you.